criticized, I preferred being a Buddhist monk, but I treasured that compliment. And indeed, this time, one of our jobs as Buddhist monks who are teaching throughout the world, we do actually try to bring traditions together. I just come back from Kuching this afternoon, and I was very pleased to see the Buddhist traditions all sharing the same temple, the Theravadas, the Mahayanas, the Vajrayanas. And I think that's a wonderful thing in our modern world, that we can actually share the Dhamma and work together, because if we Buddhists can't show harmony, who can? I think we'd be a hypocrite if we did not show harmony. So I remember some time ago, people asked me, well, what vehicle are you truly, AjahnBrahm? Because, you wear, Theravada or Hinayana robes, you actually are so compassionate, you're more Mahayana than the Bodhisattva, and that you also have very deep wisdom, like Vajrayana. So I said, why don't we take the H from Hinayana, the Aha from Mahayana, and the Yana from Vajrayana, to create this wonderful new vehicle called the Hahayana. So part of happiness. And really that is exactly what the Buddha taught. If ever you look yourselves at the sutras, the teachings of the Buddha, one of my favorite sutras is the Dhammacedya Sutra, where King Pasenadi came to visit the Buddha just before the king was about to pass away. And he went into the Buddha's hut and bowed and kissed the Buddha's feet. And the Buddha asked him, why are you kissing my feet so? And he said, because you have been my teacher and guide. And this monastery, the Jeta Grove Monastery, I just love coming into this monastery. Why is that, great king? And the king replied, because when I come into a Buddhist monastery, all the monks are smiling and happy. And the Buddha said, yes, great king, that's what happens when people are meditating and understanding the Dhamma. You do become happier. As your suffering decreases, your smile broadens. So really, the happiness is an important part in Buddhism. And the happier you are, I'm not talking about material or worldly happiness, I'm talking about the inner happiness. The more inner happiness you have, the easier it is for you to smile. And that means that this really is a Hahayana. Thank you very much for your great service. Now, coming back to the title of this talk, Buddhist Tales of the Supernatural. The reason I give this talk is because people of all religions and faiths, they're always fascinated by the supernatural. So much so that people actually listen to movies, they go and listen to the TV, anything which is supernatural really grabs people. And some religions actually go and all the miracles which happen in their religion, they say this is proof that their religion is the best. And very often the Buddhists, we don't talk too much about the supernatural, and it's huge in our Buddhist teachings. And it's huge in my life. And so the reason I'm giving this talk today is to interest you, inspire you from some of these teachings, and also to broaden your faith in these teachings of the Buddha. And I had to do that because remember, my background was a theoretical physicist. You can't get a harder science than theoretical physics. We were taught to be skeptical to the max. In other words, we wouldn't believe anything unless it was solidly based on evidence. And the stories I'm going to tell you tonight are solidly based on evidence. Otherwise, I would not believe them myself as a physicist. Not only that, but I'm a Buddhist as well. And Buddhists, we don't lie. So what you hear today actually happened. One of the reasons we teach this is to show the importance and the power of some of these Buddhist teachings. And the first story I'm going to tell, I told in Kuching a couple of days ago, and they said, "Oh, what a shame you're giving this talk in Brickfields tonight. We'd have loved this talk, on the supernatural, because it's not just teachings of something which is strange, but it also has a meaning behind this." Because somebody asked me about black magic. They did not mean the chocolate. Because many people, even here in KL, are sometimes concerned about black magic. Now, such a thing does exist. However, anyone here who keeps your 5 precepts and keeps them pure, you do become invulnerable to such things as black magic. As these 2 stories will show you. This first story occurred in Perth, maybe 10-15 years ago. It was one of our devotees, a Thai girl, and she was so devoted to our temple. She would come and offer alms food to the monks, and she would always be helping out in whatever way. She really worked hard for us. She was devoted to the temple. But she also, her father had died, but she had a mother who was still living in Thailand. And she decided that her mother wasn't being looked after well enough, and she was a daughter. So she applied to the Australian government to get a visa for her mother to come and stay in Perth so the daughter could look after her mother. It was filial piety, which is a wonderful thing to remember and to practice. So after a long time of trying to get the visa that came through, she invited her mother to Perth. She was already elderly by this time. And after a year or 2 living in Australia, the mother became sick just because of old age and was admitted to the hospital. While she was in hospital, the condition got worse and worse, and the daughter wondered whether her mother would die. The doctors couldn't tell her, but there was one lady in Australia who was a very well-known medium, a spirit doctor. And so she went to see the spirit doctor and gave her $20, which was the usual charge, to find out whether her mother was going to survive this illness or not. She gave the $20 to this spirit doctor, who then asked what your mother's name is, what hospital she's in, what ward, what room number, because she was going to leave her body and travel to the hospital to find out the condition of her life force. So they gave her that information, gave over the $20, and then the spirit doctor went into a trance. She went unconscious for about 20 minutes. When she came to again, she handed the $20 back to this Thai girl. The Thai said, "Why? Couldn't you sort of find my mum?" And the spirit doctor said, "I could find her. I went to that hospital, went to that ward, found that room, but I could not get in. There was a force field around your mother, and I just could not penetrate it. Can you please tell me what your mother's been doing, because I've never seen this force field ever before." And the Thai girl said, "Oh, my mother, she's a Thai Buddhist nun. She's been a nun for about 30 years, keeping 8 precepts. And the spirit doctor grabbed back the $20. "You should have told me that before." "People like me," said the spirit doctor, "can't get close to people like that." Which is true. When a person has a natural purity, especially by keeping things like Buddhist precepts, spirits, especially malevolent ones, they just cannot get close. There is like a force field, and they cannot penetrate. As this second story tells. These are stories from my life. One of our disciples in our monastery in Perth, in Thailand, some years ago. One of the devout disciples who would come every Poya day, or they call it one pra,